Yeah.
Are we live? All right. So I had a patient today ask me, where do we start? And I thought, you know what? We talk about these videos every day, and maybe we're not really articulating our message properly. So the question is, where do we start? And I think it's important that you learn our unique integrated stabilization activities. This is the absolute fundamentals of how we do the program. So we have to start with our stabilization activities. Because in the end, if you have back pain that's not going away, it's because your spine is fundamentally unstable. And you have to solve the instability problem. So as we go through this, I want you all to learn our process. And if you learn our process, your life will get better. So this is our process. We're going to talk to you. We've talked a lot about the fundamentals, but we never put it into a structured, organized flow. And this is our structured, organized flow. So we'll talk about this every week. So you need to learn our unique integrated stabilization activities. I said that 3 times because it's important. We are the Illinois Back Institute. We solve back pain, and we solve it better than anybody, I promise you. For 23 years, we've been treating back pain, and during that time, we've successfully treated over 20,000 patients. Hall of Fame football players, soccer moms, and what we have found is there's a process. Now, this is important because this is about you learning what the process is. Okay, there are 9 steps, but ultimately you have to start at square one. And during our 23-year period, we've successfully treated thousands of patients. And we have our 1,020 case studies. And the 1,000 case studies that we have, 1,100, whatever that number happens to be, every one of those patients that came to see us has chronic back pain, meaning they've had pain that didn't go away. And they have tried all the other therapies. Of those 1,000 patients, 504 had failed physical therapy, meaning they went to physical therapy, they were no better. 185 had failed chiropractic. 350 had failed injections, meaning they had the injections and they were no better. 471 were taking narcotics, and 100 of those had failed surgery. Why is that important? Every one of these people from our case studies had been somewhere else. And during that time, nobody taught them the fundamentals. To me, this is the biggest problem. People don't learn the fundamentals. And if you don't learn the fundamentals, you very often will not get better, and or you might get better for a while, and the problem's going to come back. So today we're going to teach you step 1 of the fundamentals. It's not complicated, and we've talked a little bit about this in the past. It's about your posture. I know people are like, oh, posture, that's sort of dumb. No, posture is very important because abnormal posture or dysfunctional posture overloads the disc. So we've talked about a lot of tips. And with the tips, what we've talked about is how to bend, how to twist, how to move, but it all comes down to fundamentals. So we're starting today with fundamental number 1. It's going to help you get out of the car better, get out of bed better, and more importantly, it's about walking. I think most of you know my favorite tip is walking. If you have the ability to walk, you need to walk more. Because if you walk more, you're going to have less trouble. It's probably the best thing for your entire body and the best thing for your spine, I promise. I try to walk. I was at 10,000, I'm up to 15,000 a day now. That is my stated goal every day, 15,000. So what's the key? The key is getting the spine into the best position, maintaining the stability in that position so that when you do your activities, you don't overstress the disc. If you have back pain that's not going away, it's from the disc. It's not from anything else but the disc. 24 vertebrae between the head and the hips. The vertebrae are the bones. In between each bone there is a disc. Okay, the disc allows for motion, but what can happen to the disc under the load is the disc can start to break down. And as it starts to break down, when you change the load or the pressure on the disc, where the vertebrae are not in the best position, it's going to cause a breakdown. So the load, when it goes directly through the middle of the disc, will distribute stresses evenly in all directions. But what happens when you change the load and the vertebrae are not in the best position is you can start to overload the outer portion of the disc. When you overload the outer portion of the disc, you'll start to develop a tear. And sometimes it starts slowly in the middle and works its way out through the annulus. But even a little bit of a tearing can be aggravated with your daily activities if your spine is not stable. Again, okay, our case studies, we have over 1,000 or 1,100. We're working our way up to 2,000. Every one of those patients had a dysfunctional spine that was unstable with tearing of the disc. It's what happens. And nobody taught them the fundamentals. So when you have the fundamentals, what it does is it keeps everything in place a little bit better. And the fundamental, again, that we're going to talk about today is your posture. It's an 8-step process. We've talked a little bit about this with the standing posture relief, and we talked a little bit about this when you're sitting for too long, but I'm going to talk about this 8-step, and you have to do this every day. It has to be a part of who you are. We talk about it as a lifestyle modification. You just have to stand taller, shoulders back, all the things that make for good posture. So I'm going to talk you through the 8 steps. Step number 1, you need your feet out at about 35 degrees. When your feet are straight ahead, what it does is it overloads a little bit of the capillaries in the hip joint, and it's going to decrease a little bit of the blood flow. So you want the hips out, puts it in a more stable position. You want soft knees. What are soft knees? Soft knees are not where you don't want your knees locked out. You don't want your knees real tight. You want them soft. Okay, so there's a little bit of flex there. Not much, but a little bit of flex. And you want your pelvis in neutral. What is neutral? Okay, a lot of people tend to want to overextend or overflex, where neutral is the position where you're standing and then you just bring your hips back just a little bit posterior, where you're rotating your hips back. What that has a tendency to do is flatten your spine, and in that position is the best position for your spine. But as you find neutral, if you have too much extension in your lumbars, it puts your pelvis in a position where you cannot activate your glutes. Glutes are these muscles here. So neutral is a little bit of flexion. And when it's a little bit flexed, you have the ability to contract your glutes. So you rotate posterior. We call that a tuck, pelvic tuck, tucking your pelvis, okay? So you rotate it posterior just a little bit. That's the neutral pelvis. And then we've talked about abdominal bracing. Abdominal bracing is the same as if somebody was going to hit your stomach and you contract those muscles. I think last time we did this, I said I was going to hit your stomach, and you got mad at me. But that's the bracing, right? That's the position you want to be in. It creates sort of a brace, and the abdominal brace keeps the spine in the best position. So you have to learn to activate these muscles. If you have chronic back pain, these muscles have been out of balance for a long time, and you have to make sure that you have the ability to contract these muscles, okay, symmetrically, all around your whole spine, but also your pelvic floor. So there's almost like there's a brace, bracing everything together, holding in spine. So feet out, knees soft, pelvis neutral, little posterior pelvic tuck, abdominal bracing, very most important. If you get all these other ones wrong, you got to get this one right. This is absolutely the most important, but you need to do them all together. So you've done the abdominal bracing, now scapular retract. Okay, shoulders have to go back, almost like you're bringing your scapula, which is the bone in the back, together like this. So you contract it, and as you do that, shoulder comes back, shoulders go back this way, and then they also say you want to tuck your scapula into your pocket. You're not physically tucking your scapula into anything, but you want your shoulders to go down. And that scapula tucking is where the scapula, you're trying to push it down like you're trying to push it in your back pocket. Not physically possible, you're not actually gonna do that, but that's the goal. So retracting and tucking the scapula. And then what you want is you want your head in the neutral position. You don't want to do all this and have your head forward because you're really defeating the whole purpose on that. So you put your head more into a neutral position, and you want to stand as tall as you can. So you want your spine to go up toward the sky as much as you can. So it's spine up, tuck, scapula back, down, okay, bracing, pelvic tuck, soft knees, feet out, feet out. This is the 8-step process. This is the fundamentals. This is our unique strategy to help you, okay? I get this all the time. What's the one exercise? Matter of fact, the most popular videos on YouTube are, oh, this is the best exercise for this. This is the best exercise. There's a lot of best exercises. There's a lot of best tips and stretches, but you need to get your posture right first. And then everything you build on top of that. So it becomes sort of a fundamental change that comes from our lifestyle modification. That's the goal. You need to start with the posture. So you need to learn our unique integrated stabilization activities. That's what you need. Our goal is to help you, okay? Next week, we're going to show you the posture again, okay, because we're building on these fundamentals. We're going to start with one and work our way up, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about walking, because you need to assume the posture position while you're walking. It's not a habit. You need to develop the habit. It takes 21 days to develop the habit. So you start doing this every day. After 21 days of walking, you'll start to feel a little bit better. Our goal is to have you live your life. So start slowly, and you're going to work your way up in this process. It is a process. Okay? It has to be learned. It's not hard. You just have to not stop. It's the people that stop that don't get better. So if you know somebody that needs this information, you need to share it with them. Also, I want you to like our Facebook page. Our goal is to eliminate back pain from the planet. And through this goal, you need to share this information, because you don't have to live with back pain. I lived with it. I thought I had to live with it. I found a way out, and I had such severe disc degeneration, and I have no pain. I can golf. I do taekwondo. Punch Cody. Not true. So share our information. I want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All the videos are going to be on YouTube, and we're going to organize them in a way where it starts with this one today and works its way through the fundamentals. And then as you do all the other stretches and all the other exercises, you've started with the fundamental, the basic, and you work your way forward. We're going to show you all the progressions and how to do the progressions with the fundamentals. So I want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I want you to follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter, and share our information. So I know this was a long one today, but I think it's probably the most important. I think I've said most important a lot in all the videos, but you have to start here. Someone said, where do you start? I said, learn. Learn our unique integrated stabilization activities. Started today. That's it. So we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.